work at Refuel for within the Capital Factory building.
And I am Grace Broom. I work on the Accelerator team here at Capital Factory.
And I'm Desmond Thomas. I'm on the partnerships team here at Capital Factory.
And Desmond, do you want to tell them a little bit about why we helped start it? Or
sure.
Yeah, you got it.
Hi. Yeah. So Haley and I worked on the LGBTQ hackout a couple of months ago at HomeAway, and we realized, there's Lesbians Who Tech. There are a lot of other really great LGBTQ organizations, but none of them really pull together the full LGBTQ spectrum and kind of create some activism and some action items that can really help the community. So we put our heads together and we were like, let's do a meetup, and that's why we're here.
So we got a couple of different awesome speakers for y'all tonight, so I'm really excited for y'all to see them. And do you want to tell them before we break about we've already started planning the next one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you guys might know of a little event called Austin Startup Week in October. So the next event will be October 10th. We'll send out the event right after this here in this space at Capital Factory, right again.
Awesome, thanks. Well, I want to introduce our first speaker. We're really excited to have her. She is based in LA. Our name is Arlen Hamilton. She's the founder and general partner of a VC firm called Backstage Capital that invests almost exclusively in minority founders. So that's women founders, LGBTQ founders, founders of color, etc. Again, based in LA, one of the best firms, I believe, in California and in the country. We're really excited to have her, and she's going to come up here and tell you a little bit more about what she does. And she's also from Dallas, so from Texas originally. So welcome, Arlen.
Thank you. I'm wearing this because I have stage fright, and it's my protective cloak of game. Yeah, thank you. No.
Stage fright.
Okay. The Q&A section is next. So I'm just here really quickly to tell you a little bit about Backstage Capital, which is a fund that I started 2 years ago. And actually, I could say that the main start of it was actually in this building, in that bar, not the bar itself. I wasn't just sitting in the bar drinking. But I had several meetings in the lobby of this hotel and started the fund. Here, I was raised in Dallas, went all over the country, bumming around, truly, and then came back to Pflugerville, and because I wanted to be closer to tech in Texas if I could, and then met a few people here and elsewhere. So it's kind of trippy to be in this building talking about our fund today, because 2 years later, we're having our 2-year anniversary in a few days. And 2 years later, we've invested in 53 companies that are led by underrepresented founders. And we've seen more than 2,000 companies come through and show us what they're working on. And these are mostly companies that are run by women, people of color, and LGBT founders. And this is what this is what a lot of investors say don't exist, this type of these companies, and especially said this 2 and 3 years ago when we were just starting out. So how many people are founders here? I'm trying to see, it's kind of dark out. Also, like almost half the room maybe, and maybe a lot of you are LGBT. So I just so at Backstage, I think it's something like, at last count, I think it is 65% women in our portfolio, 72% people of color, and 45% women of color in our portfolio. The standard, to give you sort of a yardstick in Silicon Valley, is a bajillion less than that. That's technical. I put it through the algorithm. And so we're really proud of those numbers. We are also proud of our, very specifically, Latinx numbers and LGBT numbers, which are both at around 10%. However, I believe that we can get to 20% on LGBTQ companies that are led by LGBTQ identifying founders in the next, I would say, 18 months. Our goal is to be at 100 companies total by 2020. So that means we can have, if we can have 20 of those companies be companies led by LGBTQ founders, I will be very happy. So that's mainly why I'm here, is to come recruit you. Because we invest between 25K and 100K. We definitely are investing at a fast clip. And I'm sorry, I'm taking up more time than I'm supposed to, but does anyone have any questions? I know that I haven't said much, but I know that the last event, I didn't get to talk much about the company, so if there's any questions, I'll take that. Or I can just talk about any subject at all. Yes?
My name's Kyle Sandel, first off. My question is, as far as evaluating when you initially form with a company, is there like a certification process or something that a company has to do to determine whether they're LGBT status?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because I know like the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce has a process for certifying that.
Yeah, we actually don't, and we actually call it identifying for a very specific reason. There haven't been many people that have come to us trying to get that, sake. But no, we don't have an official. I asked them kind of, do you know who Shane is, if it's a woman? And I say, blink twice if you know who killed Jenny. Give them a little bit of that. But no, we don't, and I think we probably won't instill that, but that's really interesting if you want to tell me later if you think we should. That's a cool question. Anyone else? Yes?
Arlen, I just want to hear your story. It sounds a little bit outside just now. It's kind of led us into exactly that. You said something about living in a car at one point.
Oh, yeah. I get really upset that we keep talking about me being homeless, but then I'm like, I talk about it all the time. That's why we keep talking about it. Yeah, I was homeless for a long time. But I'm not anymore. Everything's cool. Got a place. The landlady knows I live there now. That's all I do. And I was just as recently as 2 years ago. I was homeless. Had been homeless for, I would say, 51% of my adult life. I'm 36 now, so you can do the math on that. And when I was making those deals and having those conversations at this hotel, I was actually living out of a car for part of that. It wasn't my car. Didn't have a car. It's been a kind of crazy ride. I talked about it in depth in August of last year in Inc. and got an overwhelming, surreal response to it. So I actually, to be honest with you, when I talked about it in that interview, I asked them not to lead with that. I was like, I don't want to wake up to like, from homeless to Harvard. I don't want to, if it's Harvard, sure. And they were like, no, we won't do it. It's just a part of your story that will be inspiring. We'll leave it in there and it'll be very subtle. And I wake up and it's from homeless to venture capital. And I was a little bit like, I just didn't want to kind of take that on because I haven't personally dealt with it. I haven't personally gone through and sat down and said, that really sucks that time you had to do that and that you didn't have that food and all that. At the same time, every time I go somewhere, almost every time I go somewhere, someone comes up to me inevitably and says that hearing that anyone, not just me, I have to take myself out of it, but that anyone who has kind of started from there and gotten to here is an inspiration to them. So I'll take that. If that's helpful to anyone that's here, if any part of my story is helpful, it's yours. So that's that is that. The time? Oh, I don't know what time we have. Oh, yeah. Should I go? Okay, cool. Is there any more questions, or do I can recite quotes from General Hospital, my favorite television program? Yeah, I'll be around for a part of it, absolutely. Okay, thank you.
So next up, we have a very special lady here at Capital Factory. I should have her bio. It's about the length of a Harry Potter novel, and I'm not talking the first novel. It's about like the fifth novel, if you're a Harry Potter nerd. So she is a serial entrepreneur. She's a serial investor. She is currently the head of technology commercialization at Dell Med, and we are very lucky that she is a co-founder here at Capital Factory and also our director of diversity. So please welcome to the stage the one and only Melly Price.
Thank you. I'm also the flag fixer. Daddy taught me not to desecrate the flag. I don't think he knew which flag I was going to ultimately hold, but we'll go with it. Well, thank you for coming out. Many of you have been here for part of the day. We did the Women in Tech Summit. We had 500 women in technology and men who support women in technology here today. And as the Diversity and Inclusion Initiative is just kicking off, and it couldn't have kicked off with more enthusiasm, followed by my favorite audience, my people. So thank you for coming out. It's really an honor to be talking tonight. Where is my fireside chat colleague, Emily? Please join us while I read how awesome you are. Yeah, it's the details in diversity, like no woman can touch the ground in these stools. And you should be very glad I'm not wearing a skirt. So I've had the pleasure of getting to know Emily, and we were putting together this event. As you know, the next panel is to talk about the bathroom bill, and it's a really impressive group of individuals from various perspectives on what was going on there. And I thought it would be really interesting. I've gotten to be on a panel with Emily before, and yeah.
Can you hear me on this?
I don't think you're turned on. But she always gets to moderate, and so when we were putting this together, I was like, I'm flipping the tables. And I get to interview Emily in this very awkward position. Hold on, must read. Okay. And the reason I wanted to meet with Emily is I think as a community, as an LGBT community, I don't know about you guys, the last 3 weeks has seriously disturbed me. Well, the last, I don't know, since I can't even do the math when November was. I know I'm supposed to be a venture capitalist, but it seems like infinity ago. It's been disturbing. It's been a really difficult time to be LGBT in Texas. And how did we get there? So Emily is for those of you that don't know, because she's often shadowed by Evan Smith, overshadowed, I guess is right.
Shouted down by
Evan Smith. Evan is awesome. But Emily is the editor-in-chief of the Texas Tribune. Under her leadership, the Tribune has accomplished some pretty impressive things. I'll be honest, I have no idea what these are. I've heard Peabody. So you got something called like a Peabody Award. Something tells me that's pretty cool. No, they won the Peabody Award, 9 National Edward Murrow Awards, the Gannett Award for Innovation and Watchdog Journalism, 8 honors from online news associations. Before coming aboard as one of Tribune's original reporters, she spent 6 years at the Dallas Morning News. She broke national stories about sex abuse, sexual abuse inside Texas youth lockups, reported from inside a West Texas polygamous compound. Was it the one?
I beat Oprah there. It was amazing.
That needs to be in your Bible. She uncovered fight clubs inside of state institutions for the disabled, and she investigated a series of deadly transplants where patients received rabies-tainted organs. Okay, you've seen some shit.
And I covered the Texas legislature, and it's worse than all of that.
And I did warn Representative Donna Howard there would be cursing and things said that she's not normally used to hearing.
She's never going to talk to me again after this.
Okay, so she's an amazing reporter. She won the 2008 Star Reporter of the Year. She serves on the board of the Pulitzer Prize. She's also the mother of a 1-year-old.
The hardest accomplishment of all of these things.
Of all of these things. and has an amazing filmmaker friend who I've actually known for 20-something years, back when he was Grasshopper. Her husband, David Hartstein, is a great filmmaker who's actually done a lot of really important social
He's mostly just a way better human being than I am.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Okay. I can put my notes down now. But please welcome Emily Ramshaw. Hartstein. So what we wanted to talk about, to sort of set the stage for the panel, and will somebody tell me when I need to shut up? Okay. How did we get here? We'll just start with that, Led Zeppelin. How the hell did we get here? So so just to set kind of thoughts here, we've got this this panel coming up that's going to go deep in the bathroom bill. And I've been on my own personal journey of trying to become a more engaged tech political citizen. And quite frankly, the agenda here tonight, from my perspective, is to help all of us become more comfortable with this dialogue and involved, because while we won the most recent fight, the fight is far from over. And so I'd love tonight to just open the conversation with, really the mechanics of how did we end up in a situation where the bathroom bill is holding things like maternal mortality and education and budgeting, all these things hostage.
We ended up in this situation because in the 12 years that I've been around the Texas legislature, we have watched it get increasingly and increasingly partisan, primarily increasingly social conservative. And this happened for a whole variety of reasons that I could list. We could be here all night. But, redistricting, where suddenly these districts are just hyper conservative. Horrific voter turnout in Texas, where, the ultra conservatives are the only ones who show up to vote. And therefore, Republicans in the legislature who might not really give a shit about the bathroom bill suddenly feel like they have to give a shit about the bathroom bill, or they're at risk of being ousted. So we have, candidly, not enough lawmakers with backbones, people who vote their conviction. We have a lot of people who are afraid of scorecards and interest groups that are out claiming that they're not socially conservative enough. And so it's really, candidly, a pretty toxic environment. Does that help? I'm glad you had the inspirational speaker right before us.
Okay, that was heavy. Okay, let's unpack that a little bit. A lot of perfectly reasonable, let's give the benefit of the doubt, perfectly reasonable representatives who are eager to service their state are in a position where they feel like they have to compromise their ethics effectively for their jobs. Can you explain a little bit about, I don't want to assume everyone in here is a policy wonk, and so can you explain, how did it even happen that the I don't even want to focus on the bathroom bill, because we're going to have a whole panel on that, but what I do want to focus on is the fact that discriminatory legislation, sort of writ large, was this theme that came up in the regular session, and then showed up like a freight train in the special session. And so what are the mechanics of who decides we're going to have a special session? And how do they hold discriminatory legislation over people's heads?
All right, so first, let's talk quickly about the mechanics of the House and the Senate. So this is, obviously two chambers, just like Congress. The big difference here is who wields the power. So the House Speaker effectively has the clout to bottle up legislation that he doesn't want to see. He has a series of lieutenants, they're sort of referred to as lieutenants, who he puts in key committee chairmanships, and they can decide, even if a lot of Republicans in the House want to see a particular bill come to the House floor, those committee chairmen are basically the watchdogs. They're the ones standing at the door saying, this bill, we'll take this bill, or we won't take this bill. So that's sort of how it happened. So Speaker Joe Strauss, which in this case happened, had no interest in this bathroom bill, thought it was totally discriminatory and dangerous for the mental health of a lot of young Texans, says, no thanks, it's not going to make it to a vote in the House. On the Senate, on the contrary, the Senate is, more conservative than the House, and it has Dan Patrick, a former radio talk show host, who was well known for getting a vasectomy on air in the years before he became arguably the most powerful elected official in Texas. He was really able to say, this is an issue that's super important to me and I am going to shepherd this through. And he has fewer members, so the Senate it's easier to get folks on your side because it's only 30 versus, more than 100. So moved pretty easily through the Senate, got bottled up in the House. And then you have the governor, and the governor is the only one who can decide whether to call a special legislative session. So the governor, you can say he sort of he looked at his political calculus here, and he knows that he needs
I don't think he can do math.
Well, it didn't happen, so yes. He wanted 20 items to come out of this special legislative session, and he ended up getting about half that, not including the bathroom bill. So, but he called this special legislative session, and you can think what was probably going through his head was, oh God, I need to get reelected, and the base, the far right, the folks who turn out to vote historically, those are folks who want this bill. Now, I think in the special session, he really got a mouthful from the business community, folks who candidly largely didn't show up during the regular legislative session, so you can ask where they were for those first 6 months. But,
what were the numbers on that, like percentage-wise? When we say they show up as a percentage, what is it?
They show up, the business community, you mean?
No, just like the ones that get out to vote that are not us, quite frankly.
Right. People in this room probably are candidly underrepresented at the voting booth. I think a huge problem in Texas is that nobody votes in primaries. And primaries in Texas are when all of the action happens, right? Because of redistricting, these districts are drawn, so many of them are drawn to, purely favor Republicans or are safe Democratic districts, and therefore nobody votes in primaries. But the real decisions are made in the primary. So, the choice between an ultra-conservative and a moderate conservative, that could be the difference between a bathroom bill or no bathroom bill.
Okay, so in terms of our, and are you serious? We could talk about this all night.
Good luck, you're going to.
So in terms of our community, which has been under siege, is what it feels like. Many of us feel, like our families are being attacked. I've been, again, on my personal journey, I've always sort of been an ardent, I'm going to vote for social justice. And in my journey, I've learned that, I actually need to think about maybe voting in the Republican primary, which quite frankly has been against my thinking. But what I've learned through this special session, and to your point, primaries are where the action happens, and that, maybe we as a community need to think about how do we influence that process. Can you unpack for us, what that looks like and what the compromises are, Well, I won't even go
there. Just to lay the record straight, I can't offer political advice. I am a nonpartisan figure. But a lot of people ask me anyway, so if I felt this way, what should I do? So here's my answer to that question. The people who say, like you, we feel like we're under siege, how do we get involved? I think there are two things to do. I think you can, if you live in a district that is a safe Republican district, consider potentially voting in the Republican primary. A lot of Democrats do.
What does safe
if your district is most certainly going to vote Republican, if there's not a chance in hell that a Democrat's going to win in your district, a lot of people I know who are Democrats voted for Kay Bailey Hutchison against Rick Perry in the Republican primary. In Texas is a state where you can vote in the primary one way and vote in the general election another way.
And what's the process like if I hypothetically decided I'm going to go vote Republican in the primary?
Show up on primary day and do it.
You don't have to pre-register.
Nope.
You just show up and you go press the button for the more moderate.
Right. As long as you have a voter ID, you can show up in Texas. The other thing that I often say is that, interestingly, the suburbs of the big cities in Texas that have traditionally been conservative are turning blue. Not blue yet, they're purple, they're easing that way, they're becoming competitive. Places like Katy or Tomball or Collin County outside of Dallas, if I were, out trying to make my voice heard, I would be registering voters like crazy in those suburban communities.
Dripping Springs?
Potentially.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a...
But I wouldn't be sitting on the sidelines at all.
That's a really tough I don't know, I'm a body of one in a group of many. That's a tough thing for me to wrap my head around, but I did want to have that conversation because I think as a community, this is a place that we need to look at potentially getting engaged, because we can actually head off at the pass by supporting some of these folks who can head off at the pass, actually having legislation like what just showed up. Is that, like, do you really in your heart of hearts believe, like, would it take thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands to cross that
Of people?
line?
In
To show
some
up
of these
and do
districts,
that?
in some of these districts, it takes dozens of people, literally. I mean, voter turnout. Look up and go to the Texas Tribune's website. We have all of these resources. You can see how many people voted in each of the last elections, especially in these House races. Sometimes these races come down to 15, 20 votes. Truly, I mean, turnout is that low.
So one thing I learned in walking through the Capitol with many people from our community who signed up, you know, the business community coming out really was a big reason that we were successful. And what I learned, and I was shocked, like, I will not name names, but there was a representative who was like, they wrote a $500 check to so-and-so, so-and-so, as if that was like, you know, in my mind, it would take millions of dollars, right? Or hundreds of thousands of votes. Like, we're in a community where we're like, you're sort of nothing if you don't get a million eyeballs on your website. And we're talking about dozens or hundreds of voters actually showing up. So since I don't get to talk all night, which I might.
One last quick thing. Your elected officials may not always listen to you, but they'll often listen to your employers. So it's also really good to urge your employers to get involved, because business and dollars speak.
Yes. But since this is a LGBTQIA+, I'm freaking gay and I don't even know what it is anymore. I'm so old, I'm like, what? But since it's an LGBTQ+ tech meetup, I want to leave you all with thinking about how can we use the wonderful gifts and assets that we have as a community to help mobilize tens, hundreds for March, because the primary action is where it's at. And then most importantly, we just won the last one, but we can't lose our fight because it'll be back. We all know it'll be back. And so with that, thank you for coming and sharing with us. And Emily, thank you for being a fierce supporter of all things reasonable. and for sharing details with us, and we'd love to have you back in our continued journey of becoming politically engaged. So
Thank you, and thanks to all of you for being interested in these this week.
And I didn't get to say earlier, Haley, Desmond, Grace, Gabby, putting this together. I work with these folks every day. And this isn't Capital Factory, and they work for Capital Factory, but they're doing this all on their spare time. And as a colleague, I'm blown away. I'm inspired by all y'all for the work that you're doing and for bringing this group together. So one more hand or round of applause for y'all. I just made you really uncomfortable. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we are going to take a 5-minute break, so get some more queso, get some more drinks, go to the restroom, and then we're going to bring up a really badass panel. So stick around, grab another cocktail, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Alright everyone, I'm going to give you like a 2-minute warning and then we're going to get restarted. So grab another cocktail, grab some more queso, and we'll get started again.
Hey guys, how's it going? Cool. You guys want to get settled back in, that would be awesome. But before we jump into panels, hello. I just wanted to give a quick thank you to...
Hey everyone, we're getting started real quick, so if you can take your seats, that'd be great. Thanks!
I just wanted to do a quick thank you to our sponsors. We've got really great sponsors. Obviously, Capital Factory sponsored the space. They've been really great to us and do a lot of really great things for the community in technology and entrepreneurship. Pretty much it. Also, Pleasure Island. Gabby with Pleasure Island has been a really great asset. They helped us create our logo and do a lot of our branding, so they've been really awesome there. Pure for Men and Hubert's Lemonade and Top Shelf Events have really been really involved in getting everything set up, so thank you there. Yeah. But before we jump back into the programming, I want to introduce a really great person, Juan with Austin Pride. He's the Director of Technology, and he's got a couple of prizes.
Thanks, TJ. Thanks for doing this. I was going to come just to, I'm in tech, so I was going to show up, and then I realized, wait, I can give out like tickets to the festival. Because I have tickets. So we're going to call out, you were entered in the raffle when you guys signed up. We're going to call the first winner. You get 2 tickets, one for you and a friend. And our first winner is, I have it here somewhere. Okay, Sky Thomas. Sky here. Hey. This is the festival. It's doors open at 11 and it has festival gardens. Just Google it. I don't know where it's at. We'll do a raffle after this for the next 2 tickets. Good luck.
Awesome. And back to Haley.
So in order to introduce our next panel, we're going to bring up our moderator. He is the CEO of the Entrepreneurs Foundation. He's a director at Capital Factory, a senior advisor to the mayor, and actually ran Obama's Queer Leadership Council. And in addition, was one of the first business guys formally outed in the Austin community. We're really excited to have him here. Please welcome to the stage, Eugene Sepulveda.
Thank you, Haley. And Desmond and everybody that put this on, Gregson, and you're involved. Hi, I'm Eugene Sepulveda. I'm part of Capital Factory. We're really excited to have a panel. If you guys come on out, I'll introduce them as they're coming. First coming on stage, you should already know, State Representative Donna Howard. Representative Howard has been in leadership in the state for about 11 years. She is on the all-powerful Calendars Committee Vice Chair this year, I think, right? Which is extraordinary, you guys, and on appropriations, on administration, and some other committees. Angela, who I've just gotten to know, I've been hearing a lot about for a long time. She was originally ran communications for Greg Abbott when he was Attorney General, went to the Speaker's office, now has her own firm, which is Red Media Group, and has been amazingly involved with all the organizations trying to prevent anti-LGBT legislation, and very specifically the bathroom bill. Elizabeth Myers, you met her wife up here as the last moderator. Her wife is Melanie, my partner here at Capital Factory. Elizabeth is a partner at Thompson & Knight, previously Jones Day in Houston. They have a 6-year-old daughter who I wish was here, but as she pointed out, she'd be grabbing the attention of everybody on the stage. Elizabeth and Melanie were critically involved in campaigning against the bathroom bill, and Elizabeth wound up being a person that brought in and shepherded a lot of business folks to a lot of important offices of Republican and Democratic representatives, and I understand made some really great relationships with representatives and their staff.
I hope so.
Okay, and Hugh Forrest, who we all know, Hugh is South by Southwest Interactive. He's been the director of South by Southwest. How long, Hugh?
Much too long. But much too long.
I didn't realize that he was a graduate of Austin High and then a journalist. And he stepped out early and loudly on behalf of South by Southwest as one of the businesses that took a stand and said, no, don't do this. It's not only is it unfair. It's bad for business. So let's get started talking about what the hell happened, how did we stop it, and can we rest after this? Representative?
Absolutely not. You cannot rest. And I'm here, though, to also tell you thank you to all the people who showed up. I know Elizabeth was there a lot. It made a huge difference to have people show up and to consistently show up day after day after day. There were people there meeting with folks that, like myself, who are aligned, and then those that weren't. And I think it was kind of eye-opening, was it not, to talk to some of those folks and recognize that, wow, we really are in a bubble here compared to the rest of the state sometimes. And we really need to understand that there's a lot of education, there's a lot of relationship building that's got to go on to make a difference. But the coalition that came out this time was amazing. When you had the business community, you had law enforcement. Thank you to Angela. We had law enforcement. We had the faith-based community. We had advocates. We had the LGBTQ community, of course, coming. We had all kinds of folks.
The tech community?
The tech community, yes. I mean, the fact is that, yeah, absolutely. Thank y'all so much. It was such a huge coalition that it made a huge difference. And I know we'll talk about it some more in the brief time we have, but I want to point out my bracelet that I wore every day during the special session. It says TGFJS. Thank God for Joe Strauss. And we can't say that enough. And the fact is, in the discussion we'll have here, I hope you will understand that your job now is not over, that you've got to have the backs of the people that stood up to make sure that this didn't happen. Because, as you heard from Emily a while ago, what happens in the next election cycle is going to be very significant about how this moves forward. We need you there. We need you to be supporting, especially the Republicans who stood up, especially Joe Strauss.
Here. Angela, state representatives talked about the extraordinary coalition, but also the messaging. So would you tell us about how all that came together?
Well, mainly during the regular session, one of the things that I was looking at was how could we improve? We're going into a special session, we've got 2 months to prepare, and I thought we did a great job during the regular session. We had a core group of businesses, but one of the things we wanted to overwhelm them with force and with groups so that there was overwhelming force against their effort. And every argument that the Lieutenant Governor had, we wanted to take those pillars out. He said it was a matter of safety. So we said we're going to get every police chief that we can to participate in a rally on the Capitol and say it's not a matter of safety. And that was one of the key things that I wanted to do. We had the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault, the leading sexual assault experts in the state of Texas, who said this is not about sexual assault. And, you know, of course we had a core group of businesses. Hugh was involved from the beginning, the tech community here, but we needed to grow the AT&Ts, the Kimberly-Clarks, the oil companies. And so we decided to target regional CEOs and get letters. And so every week we would release a letter with, okay, we have 20 more companies, we have 50 oil companies, so that every day there was a communication strategy of why are you supporting this bill, and so that we could give cover to the moderate Republicans to stick by the speaker and do what he did. So it was just a lot of organization and just getting people to turn out and the business community to step up, because they didn't. A lot of people during the regular session, like AT&T, they have a lot of issues before the legislature. They don't want to get involved, and we demanded that they have to get involved. And that would be my main message tonight: is that this is just the beginning. Yes, we won twice. They're very angry that we won twice, and so they're going to be coming back and they're going to try to take out all of the speaker's people, the moderate Republicans who we need, who are the only people that are holding back the crazy stuff that goes on in the state, this legislation. And so when Melly was talking about if you live in a Republican district, now if you live in Donna Howard's district, of course you vote for Donna Howard. I live in Paul Workman's district. I don't know whether that's good or bad. I don't know. So I live in a Republican district, and so the other thing that, just one last thing, I'm going to put in a plug for Chuck Smith, and
He's somewhere. There he is.
So Chuck
College,
is-
Texas.
And Brad are here too.
Brad up here. So Chuck is the CEO of Equality Texas, and there's Brad there. He's a governmental affairs, and Colin. So we have many people with Equality Texas. One thing y'all can do to get involved is Chuck has some cards in the back if you want to get involved with Equality Texas and be on our email list, and you want to have a higher level of involvement, then that's where you need to go. If you want to give money to Equality Texas, there's a capital club. It's $1,200 a year. And all of those things are ways that all of us, and if you can't afford $1,200 a year, a small donation or volunteering, or there's a million different things that we can use. We need an army of people to rise up and to stop the craziness that they're trying to push through. And Joe Strauss needs to maintain his speakership, because if he's not there, all of this crazy stuff is passing.
So thank you, Angela. And we just brushed through the fact that the CEO of AT&T signed, that the CEO of ExxonMobil signed. Guys, I've been working on this stuff for 30 years, and I didn't have much time to be as active as anyone on the stage tonight on this issue. Though some of Angela's cohorts would call and say, can you make this call? And I'd certainly make it. But it was huge that these business leaders would give the moderate Republicans the cover to do the right thing. And it took a lot of social capital and to do, and people are going to be targeted by the lieutenant governor. So as we talk about the business people that came and let their names be known and put their social capital and their political capital on the plate, there's few people that stepped up as much as Elizabeth in taking them around and telling them how to talk to staff and to legislatures. Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about that process.
First, thank you. That was very kind. So I'm going to confess that
And Elizabeth is the vice chair of Equality Texas.
I'm the vice chair of
by the way.
Equality Texas, and to the extent Chuck agrees with anything I say, I'm speaking on behalf of Equality Texas. To the extent he disagrees, I'm not. So I'm gonna confess that I was a political science major in undergrad. I kind of like watching politics from afar. I had literally never been to our Capitol until March of this year, when the bathroom bill was before the Senate committee. I decided I wanted to go and testify against it. I had no idea what that meant. I was terrified. I didn't know where to go. And I ended up testifying at about 3:30 in the morning, because I didn't know you could get there early, so you can testify at a regular time. And then it came back up in the special session, and I went back to testify against it in the Senate committee. This time I got there earlier, so I testified at 2. And I had a better understanding of what I would do. And what I realized in those 2 experiences is, one, it really is an overwhelming process, even for somebody who thinks they understand politics. 2, I didn't want to admit I had no idea what I was doing, so I didn't ask for help. And the second time I went back was a lot easier. And so when we were trying to figure out what to do in the special session and how to mobilize and activate business to go beyond what they'd already done, which was wonderful, and raising awareness and signing letters and tweeting and doing amazing things and being business leaders, but to get them to take the next step, which is go sit face to face with a representative and tell them why it matters. Melly had this amazing idea, which was we need to make it easier and less scary, and we need to not force them to ask for help because no one wants to say they don't know what they're doing. So that's really how it came about. And we just set up an Eventbrite, and I had been down there. So I wandered around and took folks to meet Republican representatives. I want to just reiterate and be very clear. I love the Democrats. You guys are wonderful. The reason there is no bathroom bill is because of Republicans in the House. And they are being targeted. They were targeted the night the legislature gavelled out, and the lieutenant governor has made it very clear who he's targeting. And they need help, and they need protection, and they need it now. And so, I would leave you with, it's not that scary. There are people who will guide you. I'm happy to walk anyone, anytime. And
this issue is a nonpartisan issue. So get active, look at the Republicans who are doing the right thing, and show up and help them. And if you want to know more about how to do that, I'm happy to talk about it. Chuck is also fantastic. Brad and Colin can also tell you exactly what to do. And 2 more things. 1, register to vote. The deadline is February 5th. And 2, the primary is March 6th. So if you do nothing else tonight, please put those dates in your whatever you have, and make sure that you turn out.
Here, well done. Hugh, you've been in the tech scene a long time. You've been in Austin a very long time. What, as an individual and then on behalf of one of the largest enterprises in the state, what made you take an early stand?
Well, let me first say, great honor to be here, and to reiterate, Eugene, what you said, and Elizabeth, what you said. I was one of the people who had got involved with this, but, kind of like a virtual activist, was tweeting, was signing online petitions, and was asked to come to the Capitol by various people, and I'm too scared, that's kind of weird. And Elizabeth was great. I mean, she walked us through. It was, it was kind of a rush. I thought talking to these people and was really neat to be part of that process. And thank you again, because it was something I was very apprehensive about. But when most things you're apprehensive about, it turns out to be.
Have you been back since?
I have not been back since.
Okay, we'll go back soon.
I will. Eugene, to your question, I think we first got pulled into this. There was an event that Jessica Shorthall with Texas Compete organized at GSDM maybe 2 years ago. And as sometimes I do at South by Southwest, I kind of did this not with complete cover of the rest of the organization, but thought this was a good thing to be involved with. And then the issue...
you socialized it with Brad. I remember bringing Brad into it.
Yep. We in 30 years of South by Southwest, we've never gotten involved with any kind of political issue. We've always been Switzerland. And that's kind of served us well, probably helped us grow. I brought this up to the elders or whatnot, and there was a little bit of resistance. We quickly overcame that. Any kind of state-sanctioned discrimination is wrong. And I think that's the primary reason that we got involved with this. There's also the small kicker that we knew that something like this would impact.
We're going to say for the reluctant partners, people not showing up.
Yeah, we've seen social media on this. We've gotten emails on this. There is a long tail to this in the tech vernacular that some people outside of Texas, a lot of people outside of Texas don't know that this has been defeated for now, and this will impact people coming back to Austin in March. So I'm extremely proud that South by Southwest got involved with this. If we helped one small bit in helping to defeat this stuff for now, then it was worth all the effort. And again, we didn't do nearly as much effort as a lot of people in this room.
Well, so to all four, and we're going to continue the conversation, but just give them a round of applause, because things could be a much darker day if it wasn't for that. So, kind of free form, what's next? And is there a way to be on the offensive instead of the defense?
I mean, I think everybody, and Emily spoke about this too, the fight is in the primaries. In most House districts that are Republican, meaning there isn't a general fight in November, right, where you wouldn't have a fight between a Democrat and a Republican. There are 30 or 40 districts that are probably Republican. And in those districts, the fight is in March. It's not in November. And so I think becoming educated and activated around that part of the process, which candidly is deep, dark, sort of, you have to dig, is the next wave.
And the truth of the matter is we're a very low voter turnout state. I think we might, are we 50 or?
We are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bob,
We're
be worse.
We're the worst. So we are letting about 500,000 Tea Party people control a state of 28 million.
That's right.
It's ridiculous. And so we need to vote. We need to register people to vote, and we need to show up, and we need to have the majority rule again and put this craziness to bed.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Everybody's talking about the primary. That really is where it's at. And as you've heard, we're in the position we're in a lot, largely because of gerrymandering, the way we draw the lines, the fox guarding the hen house, whatever you want to say. And we've recently had some court rulings that may affect some things in terms of the unconstitutionality of our voter ID law today, as well as how we draw our lines. But we may not see any resolution to those things before the primary. And in fact, one of the things that some of us are concerned about is what happened when Patrick actually defeated David Dewhurst a while back. Is we had challenges to the maps and whatever was going on, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but the fact is that the primary was delayed, which allowed some things to happen that might not have otherwise. That's really probably beyond what we need to talk about here, other than to say the insider ball game, it doesn't really even matter. The fact is that there is a lot of stuff going on, a lot of people who have a lot of money who are working to make sure that this very small group of people controls what goes on here in Texas. They talk as if they're mainstream. They have report cards that came out today that are ranking the ultra-conservative Tea Party folks as their top-rated people that are the most, they're the ones that are representing Republican values here in Texas. They are defining everything. They have the agenda that is being followed by those that are concerned about winning their primary races. We have got to step up and counter that. And that means money, and that means people showing up and votes. And I mean, everybody always talks about that, but this is really serious.
Here's a group here's a tech group, and this is innovative. So here's some 5 minutes. Okay, some things that this group doesn't know. But you need to create an app that shocks the shit out of people in their pocket if they haven't gone to vote. Okay, and listen, you get a list. You get a list every day of who voted the day before. So you can pull down and you can say, my friends didn't vote. So somebody create a damn app, somebody create something that'll shock people, and let's make sure our friends get out and vote in the primary. So I'm joking about that, but what do we have that the other side doesn't? Number one, we're smarter and we got right on our side, but we can create new shit. So everybody think about that. And I see you've got something in your hand over there, Angela. What are you going to show?
Well, this is just the quality cards that Chuck has in the back. If anybody's interested in learning more about the fight and learning how to help, Equality Texas is the statewide organization for LGBT rights. So please do that, and you can get more engaged in that way.
Chuck, come here. Come here. It's our mistake that we didn't bring you up here. We've got 3 minutes left. You speak for the 3 minutes.
Thank you. As everybody said, I think the next big fight is the primary. So Equality Texas is not known for electioneering or voter registration, but we're already gearing up for that. So it's going to be register for equality, pledge to vote for equality, and then get your ass out and vote for equality, because it is our goal to protect people that need to be protected, and there are a handful of races where it will be possible to unseat our opponents. So we're already working now towards the March primaries, and we certainly want, to the extent that you can be engaged in the idea about a shocking app. That's a fabulous idea. But I'll have cards at the table over here if you want to get on our email list to be involved and be aware of what we're doing. We'd love to have you be a part of it. Thanks.
All right. Thanks all of you guys. Hopefully people will be able to stick around for a few minutes. Now I'm going to have a cocktail. And thank you for joining us. Capital Factory, thank you. Desmond, Haley, Grace, everyone who put this on, and our panelists. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming out. As Desmond mentioned, our next meetup is probably going to be in October. We're going to try to do these maybe every other month or so. This was a lot of government and activism themed. So next one we might be a little bit more dating app themed. We're trying to figure that out. Do a good balance. Both are important. And another quick announcement. So please take care of our bartender. She is volunteering her time to be here because she wants to be here for the LGBTQ community. So yeah, give her a round of applause and attend to the cocktail. Please make sure to take care of her. And then I think we had 2 more tickets to raffle off for the Pride this weekend. Is that right? Yeah. All right.
Sweet. So I got another name. And we have our, anybody going to the fashion show tomorrow? No? Oh, sweet, cool. I just found out we sold out, which is awesome. For the Moody Theater. Bianca Del Rio is hosting, Coco something. Who? Yeah, her. I'm excited. And Austin Carter will be very involved next year for the primaries. That's a guarantee. We're already talking about it. We'll throw some cocktail party or something. Okay, so our second winner is Nick Piontek.
Hey!
I said it wrong. What's the last name?
No, that's me.
Yeah, that's you. You win. Woo! Here. Pride is happening this weekend on Saturday, rain or shine. What happens if it rains? Depends. Are you going to have an umbrella or not? So bring an umbrella. It might rain. It's probably going to rain. It's going to be a lot of fun. Wear white. Thank you.
All right, y'all. That's all the program we have. Thanks again for coming out. We have a lot of time left for happy hour, a lot of cocktails, a lot of food left. So please help us with that because if we do all that ourselves, I will make it to work tomorrow. So yeah, hang out, have a good time, and we'll see you in October. Thanks, y'all.